Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about how technology leaders can get more out of AI. Now, we will be recording this session and sharing it after the webinar. And as well, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to add them to the chat. We may not get a chance to answer them today in this session, but we will definitely follow up with you with any questions that you may have. And my name is Chris. I'm a Go product owner. Go, of course, is our SharePoint Intranet Accelerator, and I'm joined by my colleague, John. John, would you like to say hello?
Great, thanks, Chris. So I'm Jonathan Plumbley, and I'm a digital workplace consultant. Excited to join you here today.
Awesome. So we're going to be answering the question for you, what can AI do for me? There's lots of curiosity out there about what's possible. Every business is very different, so there's no single answer in this space. But we're here to show you what's available right now. And of course, we're going to share some ideas to help you get started. So we've got lots to share today. We're going to start by demystifying AI terminology. We're going to then dive into some custom agents and AI models, then into some key business scenarios, and lastly, some next steps for you to move forward. And we're going to pass it over to John to get things started.
Awesome. So we're going to start off by demystifying some terminology. So essentially talking through some different terms, expressions that you're going to hear throughout this webinar, and probably have been hearing over the last year or two. We know that there's a lot of different AI tools, systems, and products out there. So it's really helpful for us to just go over this at the start, make sure everyone has this information, and we're all aligned on what these terms mean. I'm sure everyone's heard of large language models, LLMs. These are AI models trained on extensive amounts of data, giving them the capability of understanding and generating natural language. So essentially, a language model that allows you to type things in, normal questions in your own natural language, and receive responses back formulated that way as well. So examples of LLMs, and I'm sure you've been hearing about these over the last year or two. There's GPT-4 from OpenAI. Of course, that became really popular with ChatGPT. There's also offerings from a variety of other different providers. So for example, Google has their Gemini LLM model. Open source has DeepSeek, which was very popular a few months ago. Now, these are only 3 LLMs. There's a lot of different LLMs out there provided by different organizations. Today, when we're talking about LLMs, we're often going to be talking about GPT and the LLMs that are usually used by Microsoft tools and products. We're also going to be talking today a lot about agents, which are really generative AI chatbots. So chatbots that use generative AI that are pointed at different content and use LLMs to be able to interpret questions from users and respond back using natural language. Few examples of agents include an employee self-service agent. So this would be an internal agent helping with onboarding, finding different policies, forms, guidelines, and resources, essentially helping employees get answers to frequently asked questions. We also see a lot of opportunities when it comes to public customer service agents. So these are agents potentially embedded on public websites. They help customers with getting answers, understanding which products may be a good fit, and connecting with a live sales representative. We've also seen a lot of cool advances in the researcher agent space. So we'll talk more about a researcher agent during this webinar. These are agents that use advanced research models and advanced thinking models to help with performing different research tasks, consulting different sources, and bringing back and composing reports on their findings. Really cool stuff. And of course, we are going to be referring to Microsoft Copilot in this presentation. Now, we know that there's been a lot of names, a lot of AI tools kind of coming out over the last couple of years. So Microsoft Copilot is essentially Microsoft's AI assistant. It's an agent-like experience that's part of Microsoft 365. So this involves various default versions of Copilot, as well as the ability to even create custom agents that users who are using Copilot can actually take advantage of and use as well. So again, Copilot is this overall term that Microsoft applies to a lot of its AI assistant offerings. You may have heard of some different versions of Copilot. There's Microsoft 365 Copilot, GitHub Copilot, Microsoft Security Copilot. There's a whole bunch of other Copilot offerings that aren't even listed here. And again, what really unifies them is that this is Microsoft's AI assistant.
Thanks, John. So next, we're going to talk about building custom agents. Now, while Microsoft offers several pre-built agents for different purposes, creating your own custom agents puts you in control. There's a lot of agents out there, and they can do a lot of different things. AI-powered agents are designed to assist users with specific questions and tasks, typically triggered using a chat interface. They can be scoped to use specific knowledge content, such as documents or public websites, to help answer questions about specific subject matter. They can complete actions on the user's behalf, and there are also opportunities to create autonomous agents which can perform tasks independently without constant human intervention. Now, there's lots of agents out there built by Microsoft, in addition to the general Copilot from Microsoft 365 experience. Microsoft has started building and releasing agents to assist users with specific tasks and actions. You can think of these offerings as add-ons. You can select them from within the Copilot for Microsoft 365 user interface to dive in and start using that specific agent. Now, while out-of-the-box agents can be helpful, the new Researcher agent is one of several powerful new agents from Microsoft that we're really excited about. It streamlines complex research, quickly delivers clear, reliable insights, and helps teams focus more on innovation and decision-making. There's several options for building custom agents. Our first option is Copilot Studio, an intermediate tool for building agents that run in the cloud. It's great for retrieval and task-based functionality. Next up, we have Azure AI Foundry, an advanced tool for building agents that also run in the cloud, but it's great for advanced operations, leveraging multiple third-party AI models. And lastly, the DIY approach. Advanced tools are available that enable building agents and or highly customized models that run on a potentially local machine. Now, we estimate AI complexity on a pretty simple scale of basic to advanced. And when it comes to retrieval, also known as search and summarize, it sits on the basic end of things. You can retrieve information from grounding data. It's then going to reason through it, summarize key insights, and answer users' questions conversationally. It's the easiest to set up and use, but its effectiveness depends on having accurate, up-to-date content. Then there's tasks, also known as actions. You can perform actions on behalf of users, automate workflows, and even replace repetitive tasks. Tasks can also retrieve data, such as searching a list. This approach has a moderate complexity depending on the task and helps free up users to focus on higher value decision making. Lastly, we have autonomous. Autonomous operations can be triggered by users or by external conditions, such as an incoming email that initiates a robotic process automation flow. These systems operate independently. They can dynamically plan, orchestrate other agents or models, learn over time, and even escalate to live agents when needed. They are generally the most complex to set up and maintain as they involve multiple flows, generative AI, traditional AI models, and predefined conditional logic. Our advice is to strive for automagical design, an automatic but with an apparent element of magic, where complex technical processes exist behind the scenes and really just work for your end users. Now we're going to move into some business scenarios. We've got 6 different scenarios that we're going to cover today, some that use agents, some that use workflows, and some that use a mix of both. Now we're going to hand things over to John to kick us off with our first scenario.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. So our first business scenario we're going to look at is an employee self-service agent. So again, really an internal agent designed to help out employees. Now let's look at the problem that we're really trying to solve with this. So every organization has this challenge with finding self-serve resources. We know that finding, understanding, and using resources can be really time-consuming. It can be really challenging as an employee when you need to find a guide or a piece of information that you need to move forward. You're not really sure where that is. Commonly used policies, forms, and guidelines provide a lot of value to users, especially during that onboarding phase. And really, when people can't find what they need, they can't take that next step, they feel blocked, frustrated, and disempowered. It's a really bad experience. And this is something that we can use an employee self-service agent to improve upon. So an employee self-service agent, we'd rank as sort of a medium to high type of effort with potential for high impact. This is an agent that really leverages internal content such as intranet content, policies and resources, internal guidelines to be able to answer questions and guide employees. It can also help them to complete different tasks such as submitting help desk tickets. How it works essentially is this can be created with Copilot Studio. As we called out before, there are other tools like Azure AI Foundry, but in terms of getting going and exploring the potential here, Copilot Studio is a great choice in terms of going forward. So you can create an agent in Copilot Studio. It can be published as a standalone Microsoft Teams app or even a Microsoft 365 Copilot extension. So a user using Microsoft 365 Copilot will see it in a list of agents that they can quickly and easily jump into and start asking questions. Now let's take a look at this actually in motion. So you can see this in video here. I have our internal agent, Pepper, in Teams. Pepper's giving me a few suggestions, a few things that I can ask about. I'm actually going to ask about our vacation policy. So I'm trying to get information, understand what our vacation policy is. Maybe I'm currently planning a vacation. Awesome. Okay. So Pepper searched through our internal content, provided me information on our vacation policy. I want to ask the next logical question, which is, how many days do I still have? Pepper's now going and it's actually using a Power Automate flow to connect to our system and pull that information. So our AI agent has just let me know that I have 9.5 vacation days remaining. Great. Now I'm going to ask it something completely different. I'm going to ask, how do I get to our Vancouver office? If I'm in the neighborhood of Kitsilano in Vancouver, how can I get there? Our agent has just gone, searched, provided this information. Looks pretty good. Okay, this helps me to move forward as an employee. So this example has really walked through how someone can ask the agent questions. The agent can respond based on internal content. And then the user can iterate on those questions and start asking different questions to keep moving forward. So we're just looking at an internal agent. Let's look at an external agent now. So a public customer service agent. So this would be an agent potentially embedded on a public website that can answer different questions for customers coming to this website. Let's look at the challenge we're trying to solve here. So there's a real challenge with using traditional chatbots. They require keyword searches, pre-set up topics, extremely strongly defined flows. They really don't utilize generative AI and need a lot of effort to set up and maintain. Frankly, they're also a frustrating experience for customers. I think we've all had that experience of going to a website, seeing a chatbot, trying to ask it a question, and it just starts trying to take us in a different direction. Realistically, a lot of the reason organizations have chatbots is to try and lessen the load on live agents and live people. So it's almost a barrier that people kind of need to get through instead of being something that really adds value and helps customers to move forward. So we can improve upon this using generative AI. So the public customer service agent, which we'd rank as more of a high effort, medium impact type of activity, this is an agent that can answer questions for customers based on different website and FAQ knowledge-based content. So it could be web pages, it could be actual documents or preset answers, but essentially it's a combination of different information that can be provided to this agent so that it can answer questions from customers and then, of course, escalate to a live agent if needed and actually handle that handoff. How it works is this could be created in Copilot Studio with a feature called generative orchestration enabled, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. It can be embedded in a public website, and then the live agent handoff could actually be handled using Dynamics 365 Omnichannel. Okay, let's look at an example of this now. So in this example, we've gone to Microsoft's website, and we're looking at an agent that Microsoft actually built and embedded in their own website. So you can see that Microsoft went and put this search bar right in the middle of the page. As a user, we can go and start asking Microsoft questions about this product. In this case, it's their Fabric platform. Great. This flyout on the panel on the right side is showing us information. We can start iterating on our question. The agent's taking our previous chat into context. It's reviewing the information it has access to, and it's providing us information and responses here. This is really, really useful. Perfect. Now, maybe it's time to escalate this to a live human being. And in this case, Microsoft has provided a bit of an escalation handoff process here involving a link. course, this could be connected to a live agent chat or do something a little bit different as well. So again, this is an agent that Microsoft has created with Copilot Studio and put onto their own website. You can go and take a look at it, try it out. This is a cool example of what it looks like to have a public customer service agent. Awesome. Now, before we move on to some of our other business scenarios that don't necessarily require agents, you just want to call out a few more things relating to agents. So we know that personalization is really, really important to users. So employees have different roles, they work in different ways. Now, organizations should be creating and publishing agents that are meant for specific groups to support them with specific roles, specific actions and tasks. Like in our two previous examples, we looked at an internal employee assistant agent and an external public customer support agent. So again, those are meant for specific groups. But even within that, it's really nice for people to be able to go personalize and customize how they want an agent to respond to them. So as an employee, if you're going and using an agent every day and you prefer to get your information formatted in bullet points, it's nice to be able to tell the agent to do that. Now, we're really excited because there is new memory feature coming to Copilot soon. So again, there's functionality coming to Copilot that will allow users to add some different preferences and have the Copilot refer to that each time it answers questions from the user. Really, really cool stuff. Let's talk about a few more pieces of functionality that are either released, in preview, or in the process of coming right now. So first off, generative orchestration. I mentioned this one a little bit earlier. This feature actually enables agents to pick and choose from a variety of different knowledge sources, topics, and actions to respond to the user in a nonlinear fashion. So essentially what we're saying is it doesn't go through a preset list of topics and try to find the first keyword match. It's actually able to go and pick and choose from a variety of things it has access to, combine those together, and then provide a response to the user that takes all those things into context. We really like this feature. It supports flat architecture, agile development, that ability to go and add more content, add more actions as needed, and it de-emphasizes that need for very tightly controlled topics and nested subtopics. So again, it helps you to focus on what the content the agent should actually have instead of trying to very tightly define how every conversation is going to flow. Okay, the next preview functionality that we've been diving into is AI general knowledge. So this actually enables agents to answer questions unrelated to the knowledge sources and data it has access to. An example of this is a user could ask the agent about Star Wars trivia, and the agent would be able to respond to that. Now, while that's cool, we actually disable this feature because it can help to fill in information gaps, but it often leads to out of scope answers. So in that example, generally for most employees, Star Wars or pop culture trivia is not going to be super relevant. So again, it can actually lead to things that are a little bit out of scope, maybe generic instructions that don't actually align with documentation. So there's some risk here, and we just find it produces things that aren't that valuable. So again, we usually disable AI general knowledge. Now, last but not least, we've been really liking functionality around deep reasoning models. So there's the ability now to enable reasoning using O1 deep thinking models so that agents spend more time answering certain questions, utilize research models, and essentially pull in a bunch of different resources before answering. So really what a deep reasoning model means is that an agent's going to come back with more of an essay length response, consulting a whole bunch of different sources, as instead of trying to get a very direct response to the question. Now, we're cautiously excited about this one. We've been implementing it in a few different areas. We're excited about its potential in terms of thinking partnership, but we do find it provides very lengthy responses. As a user, you receive an essay, you maybe need to go through and find a few pieces of that that are really valuable and that you can use. So again, we're cautiously excited. Cool results, but it's producing a lot that you really need to comb through to get the things you actually need. Now, overall, before we move on from agents to some of our other scenarios involving AI models, we want to call out a couple of high-level things to consider about agents. So first off, there's a range of tools available. Like we've mentioned, Copilot Studio, Azure AI Foundry, and a variety of other tools that will even enable you to build local models on desktop computers. There are also different licensing options that you will want to carefully consider, We're going to come back to this one towards the end of the webinar. So again, there are some different licensing models for individuals, but also bulk consumption models that you might not be familiar with at this point. So it's important to consider the different licensing available and the implications of using them.
Thanks, John. And that brings us to our third scenario. This is going to focus on making some simple but powerful improvements to your SharePoint content. A SharePoint search uses the text in a document as well as content metadata to help find things. Now, while a picture is worth 1,000 words, images and video don't contain this information in a searchable way. Manually reviewing this content and then applying metadata takes, of course, a lot of time and energy. Our solution is to use AI-generated metadata. Giving this task to AI is a low-effort task with a medium to high impact for end users. By creating a workflow to create and apply content tags and descriptions in SharePoint, we can make some great leaps forward in search. How it works is pretty simple. The workflow runs when content is added or changed in SharePoint, and the workflow leverages an AI model to generate the relevant information and then applies it to your SharePoint content. Automating this process with AI offloads the work of generating and applying metadata. Content owners simply review and approve the AI-generated metadata. Our process begins in Power Automate, where we can trigger our workflow to run against an existing library or automatically whenever a user uploads or edits content in that library. Once started, the workflow gets data from our SharePoint library. Information is then passed to an AI Builder module with a custom prompt. The AI uses the instructions to produce the metadata. Then the workflow can then notify content owners for their review, and then they can validate once they've approved the content. Once validated, the flow then applies the metadata to the appropriate fields. Now let's have a look at what this looks like in action. So we start in H, our intranet at Hab. By going into the brand library, I'm going to upload a simple photo that I've prepared called AI Tagging Demo. This will take just a moment to appear. Once it does, you'll be able to see the content that we'll be referring to. So there it is in the top left. We have a photo of someone standing outside looking at a phone. Now I'm going to switch views so we can see the metadata get applied by our workflow. So we have the column for image tags. This is the out-of-the-box Microsoft syntax just for comparison, as well as AI-generated description and tags. This is what's going to be created by our AI workflow. And there it is, right on time. Now, once that metadata is applied, we can then take a closer look. There we are. We can see that syntax is applied outdoor and person, where our AI has applied a person looking at the phone and the tags person, building, and outdoor. So now we want to do a search across SharePoint to see if we can find that outdoor photo. So with that search underway, we can see lots of results, but we're not seeing our photo. It's maybe not yet indexed, or it's simply being buried by all of the other outdoor content. So let's try something from a more targeted search in our brand library. Now, I'm going to throw in the same search term, and there it is. We can see our AI tagging demo and a couple of other outdoor photos and some other photos that may have some other metadata that SharePoint is surfacing. Now, we can improve this further, and I'm going to share with you how we do that in our fifth business scenario. But we can already see how this process has saved us a bunch of effort in tagging the metadata. And of course, we are aware of how that improves the search experience. Now, there are some things to consider here. With a pre-built AI model, we can't control the AI-generated output. Something else to consider is, as we know, AI makes assumptions. It always has. It's still going to require a manual review of the content, but that's why we included that validation step, and it's something that you'll want to keep in mind going forward. Now let's go to John for our next scenario.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. So for our 4th out of 6 business scenario, we're going to talk about data extraction classification. Now, this is that really classic challenge that everyone has with manual data extraction. So the challenge that we're looking to address here is manual data extraction. So I think we all had that experience where there's documents, there's different information that needs to be pulled out of them, and that information is used to go and update other records. Now, going and copying and pasting information or trying to read images and type that out is really time consuming and prone to human error. We know that using that information, so processing files and using that information in a timely fashion, is really important for business processes. So there's that classic scenario where there's documents coming in, people are needing to go and review and copy things over, keying errors happen, and that can cause a lot of challenges in businesses. Now, realistically, manual data extraction is not the best use of experienced employees' time and energy. Instead, it's better for human beings to be focusing on reviewing things, making decisions, instead of trying to copy and paste things over, type those things out, and potentially making those mistakes. So again, not a good use of people's time and energy. So let's see how we can improve that. Okay, we can use AI models to actually extract information, free those human beings up, and help them to focus on the decisions instead of trying to copy everything over. So we describe this as more of a medium effort, high impact activity. There's going to be certain areas of your business, certain documents and processes that will really benefit from this. What this is really using AI models and automated workflows, for example, using Power Automate to extract data from files and update records. In terms of how this works, Microsoft actually provides several AI models that can be called via Power Automate flows. There's a variety of different document processing and extraction models. There's some pre-built models. There's models that can be customized. And these can basically be trained to meet different business needs. Let's take a look at this actually in motion. So you can see in this video that I've gone into Power Automate. I'm looking at a bunch of the different AI models that I can utilize right now. And I'm opening up this one to extract all text. So this will extract text from photos, PDF documents. There's a few examples by Microsoft, but I'm going to use an example document I have here. Okay, awesome. We can see the AI model has very quickly gone, copied those fields, and actually extracted them. The person's name has been pulled over, date of birth, address, all that information has been captured via this AI model. Now we're showing the model specifically. How we want to use this is in maybe a Power Automate flow. So a document could arrive in an inbox, a Power Automate flow goes, processes that, copies certain fields of data over, maybe it notifies a human being to go and review and approve, and then goes and actually updates a system using this information. Again, really powerful stuff. And if you didn't know about these AI models in the Power Platform, you should go and check them out. Now, there's a couple things to consider with this. First off, extracting every piece of information from a document typically isn't going to be super helpful. There's going to be specific fields such as the name of the customer, the date, different details like that that are going to be more valuable. Those are going to be the things you really need to actually copy over from documents. So you should look to configure models to extract the fields you actually need and set up workflows that utilize that information. The next thing to consider is that using AI models to extract and classify information can have a better return on investment when used for many documents as opposed to individual one-off documents. So really what we're saying is if there's a particular invoice or a document that comes through every week, it can be really effective applying an automated process like this that use Power Automate, OCR, AI models, and then just a human review and approval process step, instead of actually customizing models for just one-off documents. So if a document is just received once, someone's taking a look at it, it's probably less useful to use this versus if there's documents that come through frequently, you can get some really good return on investment in terms of building this. Okay, let's move on to our next business scenario.
Thanks, John. So next, for our fifth scenario out of 6, we're going to talk about enhancing search. Now, traditional search relies on keywords, requiring users to know exactly what to type. Finding the right content quickly is key to staying productive and focused. And then, of course, searching endlessly and hoping to find the right file is frustrating for employees. Our solution here is to add AI to your search. It's relatively low effort with a medium impact. Really, we're using an agent to interpret search queries, to search content iteratively, and summarize results. We can leverage agents to help us better target content and return accurate results, summaries, and even link to content directly, which can be really helpful for users. Now, there's a number of approaches to this. The first one that I want to talk about is using an LLM to interpret a search query and autofill search pages with filters, date ranges, and more. So our first approach, we're going to go into Power Automate. We're going to have a look at the prompts section specifically, where you can see some of the out-of-the-box prompts that John shared earlier, but I want to share our custom prompt that helps improve search. The instructions are relatively simple. We just want to take instructions from a user and convert that into a dynamic URL that'll bring us to a refined search page. Now, I've included a sample input and output to guide the AI, as well as a sample query that we can then use to test our prompt and see that that output is performing the way that we want. Now here, I'm asking for documents that were created by John that mention Habanero Consulting, but not project, and they had to have been created between January and March of last year, thereabouts. So we're going to close that in just a moment, and then click Test, and in a second, we should get our results. So we can see here that we've got our URL. It was created by John. It's looking for content that doesn't mention project, but Habanero Consulting. And of course, it was created in January or between January and March of last year. Next up, we want to try this in our intranet using Pepper. So I'm going to switch over to H, bring out our springboard here. And once Pepper has started to load, there we are, we're going to do a quick search. All right, so help me find the PPTX file about Pepper created by Jonathan. All right. Okay, and then after January 2025. Now, once I submit that, Pepper's going to call our action, and it's going to use our URL or our query to create a URL that's dynamic and has the results that we want. Now, we can give that a click, and this is great. We've got one result, which is fantastic. And we can see in the search bar that it's searching explicitly for Pepper. It's asked for the PowerPoint file. It's ensuring that the author is who I want it to be. And that was created sometime after January of this year. This is much better than what we were getting earlier. So we've managed to find exactly what we were looking for without having to manually type out or click through a bunch of refiners to narrow our search. We simply said what we wanted to our custom agent, similar to how you might ask a colleague if you were looking for the same document. Now, our second approach is really just using agents, again, to enable us to support search through a natural language conversation. All right, so now we're going to do another demo. So we're going to start in Power Automate again. We have another custom prompt that's going to expand our user search terms and generate an OData filter to only look at the AI-generated tags and the descriptions from the scenario that we talked about earlier. So I'm highlighting something here that's really cool. We want to expand what we're asking for. So if someone says a person, it's going to look for people, persons, and other content. And then the other point that I've got here is that I only want to output the OData filter. I want to be able to use the exact output this creates and put it into a Power Automate action. So we just saw the test scenario that we're going to use, and in a second, we should have our results. So if I look back at that test, we are asking for bike and people. And if we look over at our OData string, you can see bike, but you can also see bikes, bicycles, and everything else that we've asked for has been further expanded to include additional results. So now we want to jump over to H to see that in action. So once again, I'm going to call upon Pepper to help me out. And we're going to try to find the outdoors photo that we were looking for earlier. If you remember, we got a little bit of mixed results, and we want to see if we can further improve that by using this OData filter and the enhanced terms. Now, it's going to take just a moment to call that information, bring it through, create the filter, and apply it to SharePoint. But as you can see, we've now got the exact results we were looking for. Only the photos that mention outdoor within the tags or the AI-generated description that we've previously validated are showing up. We're not getting any other documents because we've also told this agent when we're looking for an image, we only want to be looking in our brand photos library. So it further enhances that search to a much more fine-tuned result. And again, you don't have to spend a lot of time refining those results. Now, our last approach for enhancing search is using the built-in Microsoft 365 Copilot Search, which is coming in July. So again, this is a feature that is coming later, but we've got a little bit of a preview to share, and we're going to start that right now. So Microsoft is updating the M365 search experience to include, of course, AI models and Copilot functionality. Now, one of the things that they've got is the ability to get recommendations. We can see recommended files and meeting recaps along with suggested prompts for working with all of it. This section focuses on the meeting recaps and files that are relevant to you, each with suggested prompts to help you locate the information you need. So there's one of those suggested prompts. Now you can hover over the title of a Word, PowerPoint, or PDF document to even see a preview of a file along with a Copilot generated summary of its contents, which can be really handy. Now, as with everything, there are, of course, things to consider. There are default out-of-the-box AI-enhanced search experiences provided from Microsoft, as well as others, which aid in getting users started with those basic searches like we saw. And of course, there's also opportunities to use custom flows using these LLMs that assist users with search queries. Custom agents can get targeted at specific content, which further enhances things for the end user. And this brings us to our last business scenario. John, take it away.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Chris. So this is our sixth business scenario, content change awareness. So the challenge that we're addressing with this one is a really common one that everyone faces. So pretty much every organization has content that points to other content. So that could be policies referring to other policies. That could be a document with addresses for an office, those sorts of things. When information changes, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to go and understand what related materials could also be impacted by that change. So, for example, if a vacation policy is changing, you maybe know you need to go and update the vacation policy document, but are there other pieces of content that might also be impacted? Are there other things that you should be planning for or being aware of? With content change impacts, determining how related content is impacted is usually done through an additional review. So often someone will go and look, try and make a judgment call, do a little bit of a traditional search, go and change the content, and then hopefully they updated everything that was related, or maybe someone else flags that something else needs to be updated. But it can be very laborious, and there's a little bit of nervousness when you're going to change content because you don't totally understand what's going to be impacted. We can improve upon this using AI models. So we define this as more of a high effort, high impact kind of activity. This is really, really useful for various areas to understand the impacts of content change. So what this is really a workflow that can review changes to a document, review similar content, potentially in a document library or folder, to understand the impacts based on those changes. So again, the workflow could run when a change is detected. After going through and summarizing those changes with an LLM, the workflow then checks other content related in similar documents. If it detects a potential impact, it can actually flag those so the content owner or author is aware of that. This can be something that can be done proactively or even reactively based on trigger-based flows with Power Automate. So the process looks a little bit like Power Automate workflow being triggered by updating content. That workflow goes, pulls the changes, identifies the changes when looking at the SharePoint library. It sends that information to the AI model, potentially an agent built in Copilot Studio, or something more complex built in Azure AI Foundry, which is trained to assess for the impact. The AI model goes, assesses those changes, follows that prompt, and then produces different information about the change impact. The content owner can get notified of the potential impact and they can go and review. They can ensure that this is okay to move forward and actually approve this content change. The content owner then determines the next steps. So you're able to actually go out, update that content, apply any other changes to other related content. So really, this is about detecting the change, scanning through other content to see if it might be impacted, and then flagging that so a person can come and review and make the decision about how to update that content. Let's take a look at this now. So in this example, we're going to a SharePoint site full of different policies, resources, forms, and guidelines. We're actually going to use an agent here to ask about an upcoming change. So we're going to go ahead and change our vacation policy in the future. We'd like our agent using an LLM to look through the content in this site and let us know, are there other things that could be impacted? Okay, great. The agent's coming back with some really useful information. It's saying the paid time off policy could be impacted if we change our vacation policy. We need to go update the company travel policy, the vehicle policy. It's even gone ahead and flagged something that we might not have thought about, which is that we may need to go and update some of the search or navigation functionality in our policies and resources site. We may need to go and add something new. We may need to ensure that the change to the vacation policy, the site's had a chance to index it and that this is searchable and appearing for users. So again, there are pieces of content that's identified we need to go and update. And there's even a few things that maybe we weren't thinking about that this has been able to flag for our awareness. As an author, we're able to look at this, think this through, and go, great, I can now plan for this change and plan to manage this change as well. Awesome. Now, that was just one example using an agent. There's some general things here to really consider or think about. So first off, authors and content owners should really be a part of the vetting process when training and vetting your model. So in terms of how the model should review, what content it should look for, what sort of change impact it should be trying to flag, again, really important to involve authors and content owners in that process. The other piece is that AI models can be used for more than just chat. So it can be called as part of a Power Automate flow, triggered based on different conditions. So in the example I showed, someone was going and asking an agent because they were planning on making a change. But you can also set up a Power Automate flow to detect if something has changed and then go and send a notification out based on that. The next thing to consider is that Microsoft's AI Builder models use AI Builder credits, which are actually not a part of Copilot Studio licensing. So if you have an Microsoft 365 Copilot license, that's an individual license, or if you have a Copilot Studio license, so you can create agents that multiple people in your organization can come and use, just be aware that AI Builder models and credits are not included in those. Various licenses give you those models, but that is actually an additional cost. The last thing that we really want to flag that you should consider is if models should actually be triggered by individual users as needed, or potentially only triggered by an admin once, and then those results saved so other users can use it moving forward. Now, what we're really saying here is that if there's 10 different users and all throughout the day, every user keeps going and asking about the same content change, and the AI model keeps running again and again, using AI Builder credits again and again, that can be a little bit inefficient if all 10 people were asking about the same sort of change. It just keeps going, repeating itself. What can be a little bit more efficient is for maybe one person in admin position to go, run the AI model, detect the change impacts, and then share those with other people. So again, really consider if something should be activated by individual users, or if it's more useful for an admin to go and run it once, and then provide those results to the various content authors so that they can take action based on that. Perfect. So we've just gone through our 6 different business scenarios. We're going to talk now about prioritizing and taking next steps. So it's really, really important to build your AI champion team. So really, AI is not just an IT-owned initiative. The best results really come when IT engages deeply with business owners, subject matter experts, and end users. Some example of team members that you'd want to include are content owners and subject matter experts, business analysts who can kind of support gathering those requirements and doing some prioritization, technical leads a little more focused on implementation, and then of course change management specialists who can really help to support and adoption initiatives. So helping an organization to really move forward with these changes. So like we're saying, it's really important to engage deeply with the business owners, subject matter experts, and end users, and not just make this an IT initiative. The next piece that's really important when you're prioritizing and starting to work on your next steps is understanding licensing. That's a really important next step. We like to call out that there actually are 2 free versions of Copilot. So there's the free consumer version, which no one should be using in your business, in your organization. There is actually a free Microsoft 365 Copilot that everyone has access to at this point if you use Microsoft 365. So again, for any of your users, if they're going and using ChatGPT or even the free public version of Copilot, you can let them know that there actually is a free Microsoft 365 Copilot for business. This uses a basic GPT model. It's a little bit like using the free version of ChatGPT, but has lots of enterprise security. Now, when you start getting into actual paid versions, paid products, you may have heard that there's the Copilot for Microsoft 365 license. This is an individual license that gets you Copilot across a lot of different Microsoft 365 tools. It also lets you use different agents, such as the agents created by Microsoft. This really gets the user sort of everything under that Copilot banner. There's also Copilot Studio, which can actually be purchased with a subscription. So if your individual users do not have Copilot for 365 licenses, you can actually get a subscription to Copilot Studio, create agents in Copilot Studio, and then your users in your organization can go and use those agents even though they don't have a Copilot for Microsoft 365 license. Similarly, with Azure AI Foundry, you can go and create agents that would actually use Azure credits. And then two other tools that we've called out kind of throughout this whole webinar include the Power Platform AI Builder. So those are the AI models from Microsoft, and those use AI Builder credits. And there's also even the opportunity for individual SharePoint sites to use SharePoint site agents, which actually use a pay-as-you-go model. Although we do find that SharePoint site agents are a little bit more basic right now, we find that we've had a lot better results using tools like Copilot Studio. Now, I keep mentioning individual licenses versus consumption model. It's really good to know that when it comes to agents built by Microsoft, individual licenses will let your users use that. Custom agents built by Microsoft, SharePoint site agents. Again, if you have an individual Microsoft 365 Copilot license, the user can use any of those tools. If a user doesn't have a license, they can't use the agents built by Microsoft. So they cannot use that researcher agent that we showed off earlier, for example. But they actually can use custom agents built in Copilot Studio. Again, you can get a subscription to Copilot Studio, build agents, publish those for all the end users, even if they don't have Microsoft 365 Copilot licenses. Last but not least, SharePoint site agents also have a pay-as-you-go model. But again, we find that that tool's just a little bit more basic at this point, and we have a lot better experience when we use Copilot Studio. Okay, so once you started putting together your AI team, you started understanding and planning for licensing, of course, it's now time to start plotting out your different AI initiatives. Now, these are the 6 different business scenarios we've gone through in this webinar. Improving metadata through automatically tagging and summarizing documents, enhancing search using large language models and agents, extracting information using AI models and OCR, content change awareness, again, using Power Automate flows and LLMs to scan through and compare documents. And then, of course, our 2 agent examples, our employee self-service agent for internal users and our public customer service agent for external users going to a public website. Now, if you're looking at this thinking, hey, these all sound great, but I really don't want to know which of the 3 that I should focus in on right now, we'd really recommend these 3 is where you get started. So improving metadata, this is something that you can go and find. Every organization has that document library, that folder somewhere where there's 1,000 things sitting around. They're not organized, they're not classified. Eventually they're going to get taken care of, but it's never on top of the list. There's a great opportunity right now to go and find that content and improve that metadata by introducing automatic document tagging and summarization. Similarly, you're going to find that there's a particular department or team that would really benefit from extracting information. This could be a finance team that's receiving an invoice every week, going in manually copying it over. It can be really valuable to go target them first and bring in an AI model that helps them to actually extract that information so they can just review and approve it. Additionally, we encourage everyone to start investigating an employee self-service agent. Very likely you already have the content this agent needs. You likely already have an intranet. You have different policies, resources, and guidelines that this agent can be pointed at to start helping your internal users right away. So again, all 6 of these things are really valuable, and we encourage you to look into these, potentially start diving into them. But if you're trying to choose which 3 you should investigate first, these are the 3 that we're recommending right now.
Thanks, John. This was a great summary and great way to get things started. Now, you're probably wondering what's next. So our advice is to bring a team and technology together and get aligning on that purpose. You might even want to explore getting a briefing or an art of the possible and start brainstorming some opportunities. And then lastly, you want to start with a pilot for your end users. Get them on the right path, let them know that you're taking the right steps, or if there's something that needs to change, giving you an opportunity to iterate. So that concludes our webinar for today. We would genuinely love to hear your thoughts on AI and the cool ways that you're using it. If you're curious to learn more about anything you might have heard in today's presentation, please reach out. Whether it's a quick chat that helps unblock you or something that leads to a larger project, we're always happy to connect. In short, don't hesitate to say hi. Whether it's 5 minutes from now, 5 days, or even 5 months, please feel free to reach out. We would really love to hear about your experiences with AI. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone.